Hey associates, this video summarizes your training or instruction manual assignment. This assignment is due on April 5th and it's worth 50 points. Training manuals, instructions, employee handbooks, standard operating procedures, and other guidance related documents are core in a workplace. To run an efficient business, standardization, across all the key roles and having everybody on the same page with what needs to be done and how to do it are really key. So you will be practicing creating this type of document through this assignment. Let's get started. This is a short assignment, only 2 to 3 pages, but you have a lot of flexibility and creative control in the design of it. So do not limit yourself. I really want you to think about how overall your design in these 2 to 3 pages can be most effectively used. The core task is to take the position that you applied for in the resume and cover letter assignment and create a short training manual for one of the roles or duties that were outlined in that position. So go ahead back to that job that you wrote your cover letter for, and then pick one role that you can create a training manual around. For this training manual, you can consider your audience a new intern or new hire, right? This person will have a general knowledge and understanding of your industry and the position itself, but not the specific ways that you need that role to be accomplished in the workplace. In the manual, you're going to include one paragraph to help orient your new intern to this position and role with your company. Then you need to offer clear steps and explanations of how to accomplish that task in that role. And you need to make sure to include appropriate and helpful images, infographics, or other just graphical elements. Do not include just purely decorative images. Those are not going to count. They need to be things that add information and enhance the comprehension of your training manual and your steps, as well as any important liability or safety concerns and warnings.
Mission will be dangerous.
Would you say we'd be venturing into a zone of danger?
Well, yes, obviously.
No, but I mean, how would you phrase that?
The zone will be one of danger.
For example, if your position has to do something with, a lab or working with heavy machinery, it's pretty obvious what kinds of liabilities and warnings would be included. If your position is more in like an office atmosphere, think about what kinds of things need to be specifically noted to make sure that your employee is safe and that, there are no things like ethical concerns. If there's any confidentiality concerns, that'd be a good liability warning. Even if it's something like avoiding eye strain on the computer could work here. You also need to develop a table of contents, which will be practice for the final report that will involve a table of contents, and this will help the reader move through your steps. Also, you need to provide a glossary of some of the key terms and jargon. Bottom line, your task is to give your employee everything that they are going to need to be successful through your training manual. Think about it like this. The better job you do in this training manual, the less questions your intern will have for you down the road. You are expected to use, the strong design, macro editing, and effective writing principles that we've been going over this semester throughout your document. Depending on your content and context, you might use a more graphical representation or more written representation. It's up for you to decide what is the most effective way to present this information for your reader, depending on your position, company, and the steps, roles, and equipment that's going to be required. No matter what the design is, however, your content must be concise, clear, logical, and easy to follow. Make sure that you are walking the reader through all the steps so that they can complete this task and that they're staying safe and free from liability in the process. While completing those tasks in your training manual, the minimum required elements that must be incorporated are you need to have a table of contents and a list of figures that aid in the organization. So the list of figures is sort of like an index for all of the images, so that way your intern could open up the training manual and know where and what kinds of figures are listed and be able to locate them. Of course, in 2 to 3 pages, things like a table of contents and list of figures are not as necessary in a more real-world scenario, but again, this is practice for your final report, which is going to be 10 to 12 pages, and so it would be useful in that case for somebody to be able to look at your table of contents, your list of figures, and jump right to where that graph is. So use this assignment as a real practice, and I will be able to give you feedback on how to improve your table of contents and list of figures for that final report. Next, you need to have a list of materials, tools, or equipment required for the task. Again, this is very dependent on what your task and position are, so think about what is going to be necessary and appropriate. You need to have at least one illustration or image that increases the comprehension of this step. So at minimum, you need to have one, and if it's purely decorative, that is not going to count. And then lastly, you need to come up with a glossary of key terms with additional resources that you think might be helpful for your intern. To complete the tasks in this assignment, you will be practicing 3 core communication skills. You will be identifying a key skill or process important to your hypothetical workplace. This is why you're going back to that real position that we wrote the cover letter for, and so you'll have a chance to really think about and now create, training manual around the key skills and tasks that you are expected to do when you're out in your future careers. Second, you're going to practice writing clear and concise training instructions to be utilized in a hypothetical workplace. So potentially when you're on your careers, you might need to train somebody at some point, whether it's training your replacement when you're ready to move on or be promoted. Maybe you're going on some type of leave, I need to train someone, or potentially you could just be tasked with developing a standard operating procedure. Here's your chance to really practice those concise, clear types of instructional writing, which is a bit different than any other type of writing we've done this semester. And then lastly, you'll practice determining and strategically placing helpful illustrations to complement text. Again, a key skill is knowing what is just a decorative space-filling type of image and what is actually going to be helpful. Make sure you're being intentional and thoughtful with the images you select. This assignment serves as an opportunity for you to teach a novice user or person about a key skill and task associated with your career and industry interests. Teaching requires that you understand a concept or process, and when you explain that concept or process to others, it actually can help increase your own competency of the topic. In this assignment, I'm looking for thoughtful design that matches the task and the workplace. If your job listed something like budgeting, you might create your training manual on how to set up Excel to do, budgeting functions. And I would expect to have a lot more graphics associated as sort of computer screenshots and walkthroughs, for example. If you have to, run meetings as part of this job description, then perhaps the training manual could have something to do with best practices for small group management or parliamentary procedure, something along those lines. Be creative, you have a lot of flexibility here, but just make sure that it is appropriate and logical for the scenario you're writing this to. I really want to see you use this assignment to flex your creativity and to place yourself in this new workspace. Additionally, and as always, refer back to my grading overview video if you need a refresher on what comprehensive grading looks like. And from the main distinct principles, of course, we need to always be simple, find your core, concrete, especially in a training manual, make sure to provide those clear details for your audience, and credible. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you in class. Bye, associates.